French, but shalom, greetings to you all. Please forgive me, I haven't shaved, but, In no such as mine, but everybody's thanks have to go out again this week to Yaakov for sending those fantastic pictures that he sent last week. They were a huge hit. It's so nice to see pictures of the things that we read or hear about. And we're in celebration season, my friends. And so I hope you all had a fantastic St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland, who lived during the 5th century. And I know it has become a festival of green and revelry, but St. Patrick is probably best known as the person who banished the snakes out of Ireland. Now, and aside from Moses-Aaron connection, he reminds me of the early Christian depictions of the Archangel Michael defeating Satan in the guise of a dragon or snake. And here I just happen to have a model of it. So here is, and here's here's the Archangel Michael defeating Satan in the guise of a snake. So when I think of St. Patrick, that's what I tend to think of. So in honor of the Irish, here are parts of 2 songs honoring the Irish, slightly different political viewpoints, one by Paul McCartney, one by John Lennon, both being released in pretty close proximity to each other. Give Ireland back to the Irish. Don't make them have to take it away. Give Ireland back to the Irish. Make Ireland Irish today. And if you had the luck of the Irish, you'd be sorry and wish you were dead. You should have the luck of the Irish, and you'd wish you was English instead. No need to say who wrote which. The lyrics speak for themselves. And coming up this week, we have the spring equinox, Festival of Purim, and we'll talk about them both, and Easter, which we'll talk about next time. Now, while I do try and leave all politics out of what we talk about, with those 2 political songs and references, and watching the news channels as much as I love to do, and how can you not these days, I've recently been reminded of that great, Jennifer Warren song by Leonard Cohen from her fantastic, famous Blue Raincoat album, First We Take Manhattan. They sentenced me to 20 years of boredom for trying to change the system from within. I'm coming now, I'm coming to reward them. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. There are times I miss being a disc jockey. I guess this is one of them. Now, during Rosh Hashanah, we talked about 4 New Years that are often referred to, and I suggested that the solstices and equinoxes were actually those 4 key dates. And we talked about what some of them meant. And as a brief reminder, they can be viewed as being, legends of the season. Each one, it has a meaning to it. Now, this is the spring equinox, so it's all about the triumph of life, or the return of life. The summer is about loss and abundance. Autumn was the link between earth and heaven. And winter, which we celebrated together, was the search for light. And of course, in a few days, we have the first day of spring, the great equinox, the Persian New Year, Nowruz, and a time that the world over sees change, life, opportunity for new possibility. Now, people really like when we observe this together during the winter solstice. So let's now celebrate together the spring equinox. This is just a little observation you can add to your own spiritual practices. Just another of your own ways to honor the earth. Tekufat Nisan, the spring equinox, the first of Nisan, of which the ancients believed the first 12 days of the month were the most important days of the year. Now, an equinox is different, of course, from a solstice. A solstice was a halfway point in the year, longest day, longest night, where a bigger cycle reached a halfway point and started back. And the equinox is an amazing beginning. Now, there's only 2, of course, and during them, everything is in balance. Everything is equal. Here's Mr. Einstein coming to visit. And there is a reason most of the indigenous world saw spring as the new beginning, the start of the year. And there's famous occurrences of things that took place on the spring equinox, and of course they can be found in various ancient writings. Jubilee 625 tells us that the first day of Nisan is the day that the Lord commanded Noah to build the ark, and it's also the day that Noah opened the ark and saw dry land and was able to leave. Now, the Seder Olam in 11.1, a work from Talmudic times, relates that the new moon of Nisan was the day that the Lord gave the calendar to Moses in preparation for the first celebration of Passover, which was also the spring equinox. Now, in the Maxor Vitri, the spring equinox is the day of the first plague. the plague of blood, which fell upon Egypt. And in the Otzar Midrashim, the spring equinox is the day when human beings receive protection from demons and evil spirits. On that day, the seraphim lift up their heads to heaven, and the fear of them falls upon the demons and spirits. And the seraphim shelter human beings beneath their wings to hide them from the demons. And of course, the Purim holiday falls near the spring equinox, and its heroine, Esther, reveals herself as a Jew to save her people. Now, you may have noticed that all of these tales associate the spring equinox with freedom. Noah leaving the ark, the Hebrews leaving Egypt. They're associated with divine protection from oppression or danger, entering the ark, rising of the seraphim, and with life itself, the rebirth of the earth in the days of Noah, the blood in the Nile during the period prior to the Exodus. Now, in spring, young plants bursting forth from the ground need protection and room to grow. And we ask this blessing for ourselves as well. So let's all join together in a prayer for marking the changes in season. Havdalatha, Tekufah. And it's a blessing that you can recite over a cup of wine on the day of the equinox or solstice. Or perhaps, you prefer to say this prayer along with whatever blessings you do with a scent related to the season. We talked about them also. For example, flowers for spring, fruit for summer, leaves for fall, pine boughs for winter. Now, as we said last time, this blessing is based upon the following text. The Havdalah ceremony, which divides the Sabbath from the weekday, the blessing over equinoxes and solstices, which can be found in the Babylonian Talmud, the traditional evening prayer, which marks the transition between day and night, and the Torah text in which God promises Noah that the seasons will continue as long as the earth endures. And that you can read in Genesis 8:22. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who guides the world, creator of the fruit of the vine. Blessed are you, great Spirit of God, who embodies the world, who creates fragrant plants and fragrant trees. Blessed are you, Lord, our divinity, who guides the world, who makes creation, whose wisdom changes the times and turns the season. As long as the days of the earth endure, planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. Blessed are you, divine presence, who blesses the years. And of course, we have the intention for the seasonal transition. Kavanot, L'tekafot. For the spring equinox, we're going to borrow from the Song of Songs, 2:10 to 2:12. Arise, my beloved, my fair one, come away, for now the winter is past. The rains are over, gone. Blossoms appear in the land. The time of singing has come, and the song of the dove is heard in our land. Have an awesome change in season, my friends. And at the end of next week, we have Purim, named because it was a lottery day. A pur was an Akkadian term that is a Near Eastern Persian word meaning lot. And it was for lot casting, like throwing a dice. Like Yom Kippur, day of lot casting, another day of lot casting, only here the lot was cast to determine the day of genocide. The story is recounted in the book of Esther, Megillat Esther. It's not a part of the Torah, but it is a part of the writings, the Ketuvim of the Tanakh. As we all know, it's the story of a Persian girl, Hadassah, who ends up married to King Xerxes, who ruled in the 5th century before the Common Era, and whose prime minister Haman plots the death of all the Jews of the kingdom. Because as the story goes, one particular man discovers a plot to kill the king, reports it, is rewarded for it, and therefore becomes competition to Haman. To top it off, he refuses to bow to Haman. So when Haman discovers this man is Jewish, he plots the death of all the Jews. And he then casts lots, that is, he rolls the dice, to pick a date for their destruction. And the 13th of Adar is the date that is chosen. Now this Jewish man is Mordechai. That's what we call him anyhow. And his niece, the wife of the king, Hadassah, that is Esther, are the saviors of the Jewish race. She reveals her Jewish heritage. The people are saved, and Haman is hanged. And of course, the names Mordechai and Esther are really the names of the king and queen of the Babylonian pantheon, Marduk and Ishtar, names which would be very familiar to the people. Now, the holiday is a celebration of a genocide which did not take place. And it's celebrated by dressing in costume. Therefore, there's the comparison to Halloween. It's celebrated by drinking, since it was to be the end. So it was to go out and drink and have a fantastic time. And by eating prune Danish instead of candy. Now, I don't get the prune Danish part of it, so I'll leave that out for now. And by donating to charity, which, my friends, you should do all the time anyhow. It's a great story. I know y'all know it. And there's some fantastic movies about it that you should try and catch. Okay. Well, welcome, friends, to the book of Leviticus. The driest, probably most boring, and winner of the most likely to lose a reader book in the Torah. There's only 2 stories in it, and both are there simply to prove a point. It is a book only concerned with the conduct of the cult. 2 whole tractates of the Talmud based on Leviticus would be devoted to the laws of the cult and remain the object of intensive study, something I'm sure you'll probably not be doing. Now, on the positive side, it's the shortest of the books, and it's poised right in the middle of the Torah. And of course, as is the custom, the Parsha and the name of the book are the same. Its Hebrew name is the book of Vayikra, not Viagra, although I guess it can seem like it keeps going. So if you find yourself reading it for more than 4 hours, call a doctor. And the name does not provide the foreshadowing that the English name provides. The English name tells you what you're getting. The Hebrew name, not at all. And he called. How is that a hint that you have just reached a book of rules? Now, as our good friend Noah so rightly pointed out, we just finished reading about the tabernacle and everything about it and its trappings. And it speaks so much about its transitory state designed to be taken down and moved and built again. Now, that's all true. And it's about to undergo a 40-year journey, and then it's going to be many, many more years before it's ensconced in the first temple. Do you really think a book of priestly rules would come next? Probably not. If the Torah were to be the continuous book that you could read, then Numbers would naturally be the next book. The story of the wilderness generation and its rebellions and growing pains in becoming a nation. This just becomes like a book of filler that, like, you got to go through before you can get back to the story. Now, Rashi had said that the study of the Torah should begin with Leviticus and not with Gemini. Let the pure ones come and study the laws of purity, he said. Do not read this if you're looking for what John Lennon sang about. I'm sick and tired of hearing things from uptight, short-sighted, narrow-minded hypocrites. All I want is the truth. Just give me some truth. This is not a book of truth, my friends. It's a book of rules, designed for what became a religion of rules. Now, before it became Leviticus, it actually had an ancient name that's not used anymore. And it was known as the law of the priesthood. And that is what it is. And I'm sure it was a much later edition. These are the rules of the priestly class. And you can tell this was a book written by a priest. And it places the priests who alone can perform sacrifice in a correspondingly critical role. Now, Genesis and Exodus were powerful books encompassing global movements in the actions of God. The universe, the land, water, sky is in disarray. The book of Leviticus takes place in one spot the entire time, at the foot of the mountain of God where the Epiphany took place, and it is wholly concerned not with the acts of God, but the words of God. Say the word, you'll be free. Say the word and be like me. Say the word I'm thinking of. Have you heard? The word is love. It's so fine, it's sunshine, it's the word love. In the beginning I misunderstood, but now I've got it. The word is good. Leviticus is concerned with orderliness and with arrangement. Leviticus pictures the beginning of the solidification, formation of an identity, of a people through law. Now, I love that so many of you who never read the Torah before have worked to read it as we discuss it every week. But I get it. Go ahead and skip forward the numbers. We begin it around June 11th, and we join the wilderness journey. But check in every week or so to find out what the latest rules said. But more importantly, not so much what they say as what they really mean. And I will do my best to obviate the boredom. I'll also do my best to point out things you might miss in just reading it. And so I'll give you a hint right now. The theme of the laws is written to parallel the theme of creation. It is all about dividing and separating. In Hebrew, the word is hivdal. Now, just as creation was the result of things being divided or separated from, so most of the rules in the book of Leviticus are all about dividing. It's true of sacrifices, of acceptable sexual relations, of foods, of everything in this book. I guess if you want your teachers to know the rules, start with the rules. And unfortunately, too many of our teachers simply have studied the rules, but have not given thought to them, and not fully understood the need to examine and re-examine them, as God tells Moses we must do. Now, the approach is fascinating. We get to see the place of the law in the development of the story of the people. Laws on how to behave towards other human beings, laws that bring identity, what to eat, religious ceremonies, holidays. The laws are not merely listed, they're narrated as words of God to Moses. And so therefore they're presented as an integrated component of the account. And the story stops being about Moses completely. The laws are conveyed through him, but the book is about the laws themselves and the fact that they're being revealed to the people. The only stories are about the priesthood, about Aaron and his sons. And more broadly, Leviticus does not develop personalities at all. It is about institutions, not individuals. Vaikir el Moshe, Vaidabar Yahweh Elameh Ohel Moed Lemor. Leviticus 1:1. And he called to Moses, and the Lord spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying. The scene's already been set in Exodus. A column of cloud or fire is visible at all times. A tent of meeting, the tabernacle, stands outside the camp. Moses goes in and out of the tent, his face veiled and then unveiled, bringing laws from God. The book begins with God speaking from the tabernacle, thereby establishing the tabernacle from the outset as the visible, present entity among the people through which the divine word enters the world. That's it for excitement. And that ended in Exodus. This parsha begins with different types of offerings. That's all that it's about. Among them, burnt offerings, grain offerings, guilt offerings, sin offerings. I'll leave it for those of you who want to read about the different types in these first 5 chapters of the book to do so. The parsha ends with a reminder that it is a sin to tell a lie. But I want to talk more about how it opens. Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, a human from you who will make an offering to the Lord. You shall make your offering from the domestic animals, from the herd, from the flock. A human. The laws of sacrifice begin by referring to the offerer by the species term, a human, Adam. Now Rashi gives a midrashic explanation for this, but we should note that the text next refers to the offerer as a person, nephesh, and then as a man, ish. And this is the same order in which these terms are used to refer to human beings in the book of Genesis. And so we have a link between the books of the Torah, and it makes a link between God's creation of humans on the one hand and human sacrifices to their Creator on the other. Creation and sacrifice are linked. Creation produces life. Sacrifice takes life. And so the word order here subtly reminds us that when we take animals' lives in order to support our own, we should remember that both their lives and ours are part of a common creation, and that both are treated in the Torah as sacred. The world is sacred, my friends, and so is everything in it. Express your gratitude, light a candle, make a wish, celebrate your life and the lives of those you love. Share your feelings with them. Live free, be free, honor your freedom, be well, be happy, be blessed. Share and honor the light and all who live in the light and continue to shine. Continue to send everybody you know goodwill and love. Pray for peace and freedom for everyone, and end to terror and hatred. Remember, friends, we are a community. We learn together, we celebrate each other, we love each other, we share this right together, men and women equally. Let us send out love, not fear. Send out peace, harmony, good healing to all who need it. Please do. Learn to forgive, learn to love. Open your hearts and honor the relationships of your life. Tell those you love that you love them. Take advantage of the time you have, and remember the journey is a journey to enjoy, as are the twists and turns of the patterns that weave through the fabric of our lives. In our efforts to grow, to learn, to be, to love. So please do love. Share the light with all who live in the light and all who need the light. Remember to keep opening your hearts. Watch for that glory of God. Just be sure when you say I love you, It's a sin to tell a lie. Millions of hearts are broken just because those words were spoken. Bless you all. Have a fantastic week. A week of love and light and peace and healing and thanks. Send your goodwill to those who need it. Keep on dreaming, keep being, keep teaching, keep sharing, keep shining, keep spreading your holiness. Have an awesome equinox, my friends, and a fantastic Purim. And thank you all for joining me. Shabbat Shalom. Take care. We'll see you again soon.